About the sun was just beginning to rise over Buckingham Palace. The sky was pink and orange, and everything was quiet. Royal Guard James Mitchell walked slowly through the palace garage. He had been working for the royal family for 12 years. Every morning, he checked all the cars to make sure everything was safe. James was a careful man. He always noticed small things that others might miss. This morning, something caught his eye. One of the car doors was slightly open. It was the Queen Consort Camilla's private car. The door should have been locked. James walked closer to the car. He pulled on his white gloves and opened the door a little more. There, on the floor under the passenger seat, was a brown leather folder. It looked expensive. James picked it up carefully. His hands shook a little. He knew he should not look inside, but something told him this was important. He opened the folder slowly. Inside were many papers, photographs, and letters. James began to read. His eyes grew wide with shock. These were not normal papers. These were private letters to newspaper editors. There were photographs of Princess Catherine with her children. There were notes about Catherine's doctor appointments and her private conversations. James felt his heart beating fast in his chest. This was very bad. Someone had been collecting private information about the royal family. Someone had been selling secrets to the newspapers. And this folder belonged to Camilla, the Queen Consort herself. James looked around the empty garage. What should he do? If he reported this to the wrong person, he could lose his job. He could even be injured. But if he did nothing, Princess Catherine would continue to suffer. He had seen how sad she looked in recent months. Now he knew why. James made a decision. He took out his phone and carefully photographed every page in the folder. Then he put the folder back exactly where he found it. He needed proof, but he also needed to be smart. He saved all the photos to a secure drive and locked it away. That morning, James sent an urgent message to Prince William's office. He wrote that he needed a private meeting immediately. It was very important. He marked the message as highest priority. 3 hours later, James stood in a small private office. He was nervous. His uniform was perfect, but his hands were sweating. The door opened, and Prince William walked in. He was wearing casual clothes, jeans, and a sweater. He had been playing with his children when the urgent message arrived. "Good morning, James," William said. His voice was kind but concerned. "What is this about?" James saluted. Then he took a deep breath and began to explain. He told William about finding the folder. He showed him the photographs he had taken on his phone. He watched as William's face changed. At first, William looked confused, then shocked, then angry. But it was a cold anger, quiet and controlled. William sat down and looked at every single photograph. He read every letter. He studied every note about his wife Catherine. The room was very silent. James could hear his own breathing. He could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Finally, William looked up at him. "You did the right thing, James," William said quietly, but his voice had changed. It was the voice of a future king, not just a friendly prince. "This stays between us for now. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Royal Highness," James replied. William made several phone calls. He spoke in low, serious tones. James could not hear everything, but he heard enough. William was calling his private secretary, his security chief, and his lawyers. He was also requesting an immediate meeting with Camilla. After the calls ended, William stood up and shook James's hand. "You may have saved my wife from months more suffering," he said. "Thank you for your courage and your loyalty." James left the office feeling both relieved and worried. He had done the right thing, but what would happen now? William sat alone for a moment after James left. He looked at the evidence again. All these months, Catherine had been struggling. The newspapers always seemed to know things they should not know. Private moments with their children, her medical appointments, things she said in confidence to family members. Catherine had blamed herself. She thought she was being too careful, too paranoid. She had started to trust people less. She had become quieter, sadder, and all along it was Camilla, the woman who was supposed to be family, the woman they had tried so hard to welcome. William went to find Catherine. She was in their apartment, reading to their youngest child. When she saw William's face, she knew something was wrong. "Can we talk privately?" William asked gently. Catherine put the book down and followed him to their bedroom. William closed the door. He sat beside her on the bed and took her hands. "I need to show you something," he said. "It is going to upset you, but you need to know the truth." He showed her the photographs from James's phone. Catherine's face went pale as she looked at each image. Her hands began to shake. Tears filled her eyes, but she did not cry. She just kept looking at the evidence. "It was her?" Catherine whispered. "All this time, it was Camilla?" William nodded. He put his arm around her shoulders. "I am so sorry," he said. "But this ends now, today." Catherine leaned against him. She felt angry, hurt, and betrayed, but she also felt something else, relief. She was not crazy. She had not been imagining things. There really had been someone working against her. Now she knew who. "What are you going to do?" she asked quietly. William's jaw tightened. "I am going to confront her, publicly, with witnesses. No more palace secrets. No more protecting people who hurt our family." That afternoon, messages went out to senior palace officials. A meeting was called. Security officers were briefed. Legal advisors were summoned. And Camilla received a formal request to attend an immediate meeting. She could not refuse. As the palace staff hurried through the corridors, they sensed something big was happening. The atmosphere was tense. Prince William's face was serious and cold. Something had changed, and it would change everything. In her rooms, Camilla prepared for the meeting. She had no idea what was coming. She had no idea that her carefully hidden secrets had been discovered. She had no idea that in just a few hours, her entire life would fall apart. The storm was coming, and there was no escape.
Camilla walked down the long palace corridor. Her high heels clicked on the marble floor. She was dressed elegantly in a cream-colored suit. She wore her favorite pearl necklace. She looked calm and confident on the outside, but inside she felt confused. Why was this meeting called so suddenly? She reached the meeting room and paused at the door. Something felt wrong. The atmosphere was too serious, too formal. She took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The room was full of people. Camilla stopped in surprise. This was not a normal family meeting. Prince William stood at the far end of the table. His face was cold and serious. She had never seen him look like this before. To his right sat Edward Thornton, William's private secretary. On the left were two lawyers in dark suits. Security Chief Robert Hayes stood near the wall with his arms crossed. And there, looking uncomfortable, was Guard James Mitchell. Camilla felt her confidence begin to crack. This looked like a courtroom, not a family meeting. But she was the Queen Consort. She would not show fear. She lifted her chin and walked into the room with grace. "Good afternoon," she said, trying to sound normal. "What is this all about?" William did not smile. He did not offer her a seat. He just looked at her with cold, steady eyes. The silence in the room was heavy and uncomfortable. "We have discovered evidence of serious wrongdoing," William said. His voice was calm, but hard. "Evidence that involves you directly." Camilla's heart began to beat faster. "I don't understand," she said. "What evidence? What are you talking about?" William nodded to Edward. The private secretary placed a tablet computer on the table and slid it toward Camilla. "Please look at the screen," William said. Camilla picked up the tablet with shaking hands. She began to scroll through the images. Her own handwriting stared back at her. Her own notes. Her own letters to newspaper editors. Photographs she had taken. Emails she had sent. Everything was there. Every secret. Every betrayal. The blood drained from Camilla's face. She felt dizzy. How did they find this? Where did they get it? She looked up at Guard James, and suddenly she understood. The folder in her car. She had left it there last night, meaning to take it home. She had forgotten. This is not what it looks like, she stammered, but the words sounded weak even in her own ears. Really? William's voice cut through the room like ice. Then please explain what it looks like. Explain why you have detailed notes about my wife's private medical appointments. Explain why you sent emails to tabloid reporters. Explain why you received money from newspapers in exchange for private family information. Camilla opened her mouth, but no words came out. What could she say? The evidence was right there, undeniable and damning. How long has this been going on? William asked. His voice was quiet now, but somehow that made it worse. Camilla sat down heavily in a chair. Her legs would not hold her anymore. She looked at the faces around the room. Everyone was watching her with disgust, disappointment, or cold professionalism. No one looked sympathetic. She started, then stopped. She tried again. I felt pushed aside, ignored. Catherine was getting all the attention, all the love. The press compared me to her constantly. They made me look bad. I just wanted... You wanted what? William interrupted. You wanted to destroy my wife's reputation? You wanted to make her suffer? You wanted money? No. Camilla said quickly. It wasn't like that. I shared small things, little details. I needed to stay relevant. I needed the press to pay attention to me. William's hands gripped the edge of the table. His knuckles turned white. Small things? He repeated. You call my wife's private health information small things? You call details about my children small things? He picked up another tablet and began to read from it. Here is an email you sent to a reporter. You told him that Catherine was feeling depressed after the birth of our third child. You gave him details about her therapy sessions. You told him which days she would be at certain locations so he could photograph her looking tired or upset. Camilla closed her eyes. Hearing it read aloud made it sound so much worse. William continued reading. Here's another one. You told a tabloid editor that Catherine and I had argued about moving to Windsor. You gave them details of a private family conversation. And here, you accepted £5,000 for providing photographs of a private family birthday party. Stop, please, Camilla whispered. But William did not stop. For 2 years, you have been systematically undermining my wife. While you smiled at family dinners, while you posed for photographs with us, while you pretended to care, you were selling our privacy. You were hurting Catherine deliberately. One of the lawyers spoke up. Your Majesty, we have documented 73 separate incidents of leaked information. We have bank records showing payments totaling over £200,000. We have emails, photographs, and recorded phone conversations. Camilla felt tears running down her face. Her carefully applied makeup was ruining. Her hands trembled. I am sorry, she said. I am so sorry. I know I made terrible mistakes. Mistakes. William's voice rose for the first time. These were not mistakes. Mistakes happen once or twice. This was deliberate, calculated, and ongoing. You knew exactly what you were doing. Camilla looked up at him. She saw the anger in his eyes, but she also saw hurt. She had betrayed him too, not just Catherine. He had tried to welcome her into the family. He had been patient and kind, despite everything. And she had thrown it all away. What happens now? She asked quietly. William exchanged glances with the lawyers. Now, there will be a full investigation. Every communication you have had will be examined. Everyone you contacted will be interviewed. We will determine the complete extent of the damage you have caused. And then, Camilla's voice was barely a whisper. And then, William said, there will be consequences. Real consequences. This will not be swept under the carpet. This will not be handled quietly with money and secrecy. The truth will come out. Camilla's eyes widened. You cannot make this public. Think of the scandal. Think of what it will do to the monarchy. Think of your father. William's expression did not change. I have thought about all those things. I have thought about nothing else since this morning. But I have also thought about the innocent staff members who were accused and fired because of your actions. I have thought about my wife, who has suffered for 2 years wondering why her privacy kept being violated. I have thought about the kind of institution we want to be. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on hers. The monarchy cannot be built on lies and cover-ups. It cannot protect the powerful while sacrificing the innocent. If we are to mean anything, we must stand for truth and accountability, even when it is painful, even when it involves family. Security Chief Hayes stepped forward. Ma'am, you will need to come with us. You will be escorted to your apartments, where you will remain while the investigation continues. Your communications will be monitored. Your movements will be restricted. Camilla stood up slowly. She felt old and tired. All her power, all her position, meant nothing now. She had gambled and lost everything. As she walked toward the door, she passed Guard James. Their eyes met for just a moment. She expected to see triumph in his face, but instead she saw only sadness. He had done his duty, nothing more. William watched her leave. When the door closed behind her, he let out a long breath. Edward put a hand on his shoulder. That was the hardest thing I have ever done, William said quietly. But it was the right thing, Edward replied. William nodded. Now he had to go tell Catherine what had happened. And then he had to tell his father that his wife had betrayed them all. The worst part of this day was not over yet. The storm had truly begun. The palace felt different in the days after the confrontation. The usual busy atmosphere had changed. Staff members walked quietly through the halls. They whispered to each other. Everyone knew something serious had happened, but no one knew exactly what. Camilla stayed locked in her private apartments. Her public schedule was canceled. The official statement said she was unwell and resting. But inside the palace, everyone knew the truth was much more serious. William had assembled a small team to investigate everything. Computer experts examined every email Camilla had ever sent. Phone records were pulled. Bank statements were reviewed. What they found made William's heart sink. The situation was worse than he had imagined. The leaks had not started recently. They had been going on for almost 2 years. Camilla had been very careful and very organized. She had multiple contacts at different newspapers. She had used secret email accounts. She had received money in cash and through offshore accounts. This was not a few mistakes. This was a planned operation. Catherine sat in the sunroom of their Kensington Palace home. She had a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, even though it was warm outside. She stared out the window, not really seeing anything. William brought her a cup of tea and sat beside her. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. Catherine did not answer right away. She took a sip of tea and set the cup down carefully. "I feel numb," she finally said. "For 2 years, I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was being paranoid. Every time something private ended up in the newspapers, I blamed myself for not being careful enough." William took her hand. "None of this was your fault." "I know that now," Catherine said. "But I also feel sad. I tried so hard with her, William. I really did. I invited her to private family events. I asked her for advice. I tried to build a relationship. And all that time she was—" Her voice broke. William pulled her close and held her. Catherine did not cry. She had cried enough already. Now she just felt empty and betrayed. "What hurts most," Catherine continued, "is that she made me doubt myself. She made me suspicious of good people. I started to trust my staff less. I pulled away from friends. I thought someone close to me was the problem, and it was her all along." William felt anger burning in his chest again, but he kept his voice calm for Catherine. "The investigation team wants to talk to you tomorrow. They need to know what information was leaked and when. It will be difficult, but it is important." Catherine nodded. "I understand. I want to help. The people who lost their jobs because of her deserve to know the truth." That night, William received a message he had been dreading. His father, King Charles, wanted to see him immediately. William drove to Clarence's house alone. It was late, almost midnight, but Charles was still awake. Charles looked older than William had ever seen him. His face was gray and tired. His eyes were red. He had been told the basic facts earlier, but now William had to give him the full report. They sat in Charles's private study. William laid out everything. The evidence, the investigation findings, the extent of betrayal. Charles listened in silence. His hands gripped the arms of his chair, so tightly his knuckles were white. When William finished speaking, Charles stood up and walked to the window. He stood there for a long time, looking out at the dark gardens. "I love her," Charles said quietly. "Despite everything, I love her." "I know you do, Father," William replied. Charles turned around. His eyes were full of pain. "But I am also the king. I cannot protect her from this, can I?" William shook his head. "No, Father, you cannot, and you should not." Charles sat down again heavily. "What would your grandmother have done?" he asked. He was talking about Queen Elizabeth II, who had always put duty before everything else. "I think," William said carefully, "she would have said that the institution must come first, that no one, no matter who they are, is above accountability." Charles closed his eyes. "You are right, of course, but that does not make it easier." They talked for 2 more hours. Charles asked questions about the evidence, about the investigation, about what would happen next. Slowly, the loving husband was replaced by the king. He made a decision that William knew cost him everything. "I will not interfere," Charles said. "Whatever consequences are appropriate, they must be applied. I will support your decisions completely. The monarchy must have integrity, even when it breaks my heart." William felt both proud of his father and sad for him. This was what true leadership looked like, choosing duty over personal happiness. The next morning, the investigation team interviewed staff members who had been wrongly accused. A young assistant named Emma had been fired 3 months earlier. She had been blamed for leaking information about Catherine's schedule. When she learned the truth, she broke down crying. "I lost my job," Emma sobbed. "I lost my reputation. Other palaces would not hire me because they thought I was a gossip. My career was destroyed, and I did nothing wrong." William met with Emma personally. He apologized for what had happened to her. He offered her job back with a promotion and a formal letter clearing her name. Emma accepted, but the damage to her confidence had been done. There were others too. A senior aide named Thomas had resigned under pressure. He had been suspected of selling stories to the press. When he learned that Camilla was a real source, he sat in shocked silence for several minutes. "I served this family for 15 years, Thomas said, his voice shaking. 15 years of loyalty. And in one moment it was all gone. People I considered friends stopped talking to me. My wife left me because of the stress. And I was innocent." William listened to each story, each person who had suffered because of Camilla's actions. The human cost was staggering. These were not just abstract problems. These were real people whose lives had been damaged. Guard James Mitchell was called in for another interview. The investigation team needed to verify every detail of how he found the evidence. They checked that he had followed all proper procedures. James answered every question calmly and honestly. After the formal interview, William asked to speak with James privately. They stood in a quiet corridor away from the investigation rooms. "I want to thank you again," William said. "You could have ignored what you found. You could have put it back and walked away. No one would have known." James stood at attention. "That would not have been right, sir. I serve this family with honor. Honor means doing the right thing, even when it is difficult." William smiled sadly. "There are not many people like you left, James. I want you to know that your integrity has prevented further harm. Catherine knows what you did, and she is grateful." James's formal expression softened slightly. "How is the princess, sir?" "She is strong," William replied. "Stronger than Camilla ever gave her credit for." Meanwhile, Princess Anne arrived at Kensington Palace to visit Catherine, and was known for her direct manner and no-nonsense attitude. She found Catherine in the garden, watching the children play, and sat down beside her without asking. "I hear you have had a difficult week," she said bluntly. Catherine smiled slightly. "That is one way to put it. I want you to know something," and said, looking directly at Catherine. "I never trusted her completely. I could not put my finger on why, but something always felt off. I should have listened to my instincts. Catherine was surprised. You suspected something? Not exactly, and admitted, but little things bothered me. The way she asked questions about your schedule, the way she seemed too interested in family problems. In hindsight, the signs were there. I just did not connect them. They sat in silence for a moment, watching Prince George chase his sister around the garden. What happens now? Catherine asked. Anne's expression became serious. Now, the family decides how to handle this publicly. William wants transparency. Charles wants to protect his wife, but knows he cannot. It will be messy and painful. But, Catherine, you must hold your head high. You did nothing wrong. You were the victim here. Catherine nodded slowly. I do not want revenge. I just want the truth known. I want the people who were blamed to be cleared. And I want to feel safe in my own family again. You will, Anne said firmly. This family stands with you. The ones who matter, anyway. As evening fell, William gathered his closest advisors one more time. They had a decision to make. The investigation was nearly complete. The evidence was overwhelming. Now they had to decide how to tell the world. The store was about to break publicly, and there would be no going back. The palace conference room was filled with tension. William sat at the head of the long table. Around him were his most trusted advisors, lawyers, and communication experts. They had been meeting for 3 hours, and the discussion was getting heated. Sir Anthony Pemberton, the senior lawyer, spoke firmly. Your Royal Highness, I must advise caution. If we release this information publicly, there will be chaos. The press will go wild. The scandal could damage the monarchy for years. William listened, but his expression did not change. And if we hide it, if we pay people to stay quiet and pretend nothing happened, what does that say about us? It says we are protecting the institution. Another advisor said, this is how these matters have always been handled. Quietly, privately. That is exactly the problem, William replied. His voice was calm but firm. We have hidden problems for too long. We have protected powerful people, while innocent staff members suffered. That ends now. The communications director, Sarah Chun, leaned forward. Sir, I understand your position, but we must think strategically. If we announce this publicly, we need a clear plan. We need to control the narrative. I do not want to control the narrative, William said. I want to tell the truth. Sarah nodded. Then let me propose a phased approach. First, we release a brief statement. The Queen Consort is stepping back from duties due to a serious internal matter. This gives us time to complete the legal review. Then, when everything is finalized, we release the full details. William considered this. It was a compromise, but a reasonable one. How long would the first phase take? 2 weeks, perhaps 3, Sarah replied. Enough time to ensure all our facts are correct and all affected parties are informed. Agreed, William said. But I want to be clear. When we do release the full information, I will face the press directly. I will answer their questions. No hiding behind written statements. The room fell silent. This was unprecedented. Senior royals did not hold press conferences about family scandals. Sir Anthony said carefully, that is extremely risky. The press will ask difficult questions, personal questions. Good, William said. Let them ask. I will answer honestly, within appropriate boundaries. The public deserves to see that we take this seriously. Later that evening, William went to see Catherine. She was reading a bedtime story to Princess Charlotte. William waited until Charlotte was asleep. Then he and Catherine walked to their private sitting room. The announcement will be made in 2 weeks, William told her. First a brief statement, then the full disclosure. Catherine nodded. She looked tired but determined. And you will do a press conference? Yes. I know it is unusual, but I think it is necessary. Catherine was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I have been thinking about what I want from all this. Not revenge, not public humiliation, just truth and accountability. That is what we will deliver, William promised. What about your father? Catherine asked softly. How is he coping? William's expression became sad. He is heartbroken, but he knows this is the right thing to do. He told me yesterday that he will not interfere. He supports whatever decisions we make. Catherine felt sympathy for Charles despite everything. She was his choice, his love. This must be destroying him. It is, William agreed, but he is putting the monarchy first. That takes incredible strength. Across London, in her confined apartments, Camilla sat with her lawyer. The investigation was nearly complete, and the findings were devastating. Her lawyer had reviewed everything and given her the hard truth. "Your Majesty," the lawyer said, "the evidence against you is overwhelming. My best advice is full cooperation. Accept responsibility. Show genuine remorse. It is your only chance at limiting the damage." Camilla's hands shook as she held her coffee cup. "Will there be criminal charges?" "Possibly." The lawyer replied honestly. "You violated privacy laws. You committed fraud by accepting money for confidential information. The Crown Prosecution Service is reviewing the case now." Camilla set down her cup before she dropped it. "I never meant for it to go this far. It started small. Just tiny bits of information. Then the newspapers wanted more. They paid more. I told myself it was harmless." "But you knew it was wrong," the lawyer said. "It was not a question." Camilla closed her eyes. "Yes, I knew." That night, Charles came to see her. It was the first time they had been alone since the confrontation. Camilla stood when he entered. She looked at the man she loved and saw the pain in his eyes. "Charles, she began, but he held up his hand. "Let me speak first," he said quietly. "I have thought about nothing else for days. I have reviewed the evidence. I have spoken with William. I have consulted with advisors. And I have reached a decision." Camilla waited, her heart pounding. "I love you," Charles said. "That has not changed. But love is not enough. What you did was wrong. It was cruel. It hurt people I care about. It violated everything I believe in." Tears ran down Camilla's face. "I know. I am so sorry." "Sorry does not fix what you broke," Charles continued. His voice was heavy with emotion. "Catherine trusted you. William tried to welcome you. Innocent people lost their jobs. And you did it all for money and attention." "I was insecure," Camilla said desperately. "I felt invisible. Catherine was so popular, so loved. I felt like no one cared about me anymore. So you decided to hurt her?" Charles's voice rose slightly. "You decided to make her suffer because you were jealous?" Camilla had no answer. When spoken aloud, it sounded even worse than she had imagined. Charles walked to the window. "I am the king. I have responsibilities that go beyond my personal feelings. I cannot protect you from the consequences of your actions. I will not protect you." "What does that mean?" Camilla whispered. Charles turned to face her. "It means when the announcement is made, I will support it. I will release a statement expressing disappointment in your actions. I will make clear that accountability is necessary. And I will accept whatever the family decides is the appropriate consequence. Even if they strip me of my title?" Camilla asked. "Even then," Charles confirmed. "The monarchy must stand for something. It must have integrity. I will not sacrifice that, not even for you." Camilla sank into a chair. She had lost everything. Her position, her reputation, her husband's protection, all because of her own choices. Charles stood at the door. "I do still love you," he said softly, "but I love this institution more. I love what it represents. And right now, it represents the principle that no one is above accountability." He left without saying goodbye. Camilla sat alone in the gathering darkness, finally understanding the full weight of what she had done. The next day, William met with the staff members who had been wrongly accused. One by one, he spoke with them personally. He apologized on behalf of the family. He offered them their jobs back, with promotions and compensation. He gave them formal letters clearing their names completely. Most accepted gratefully. A few were too hurt to return. William understood and respected their decisions. He made sure they received excellent references and financial settlements. Thomas, the senior aide who had lost everything, shook William's hand with tears in his eyes. Thank you, sir. You did not have to do this personally. Yes, I did, William replied. You deserve better than what happened to you. This is the least I can do. Princess and organized a family meeting. Edward, Sophie, and several other senior royals gathered at Buckingham Palace. William presented the full investigation findings. He explained his plan for public disclosure. The room erupted in discussion. Some agreed with William. Others worried about the scandal. Princess silenced them all with a sharp look. This family has hidden too many problems for too long, and said firmly, William is right. We either stand for something or we stand for nothing. I support full transparency. Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, agreed. The institution will survive this. It has survived worse. But it cannot survive continued dishonesty. One by one, the family members voiced their support. Not everyone was happy about it, but they understood it was necessary. William felt a weight lift from his shoulders. His family stood with him. Together, they would face the storm. The announcement was scheduled for Monday, 2 weeks away. The press conference would follow. The palace machinery began preparing for the biggest royal scandal in decades. The calm before the storm was ending. Soon, the world would know everything. Monday morning arrived cold and gray. The sky was heavy with dark clouds. Inside Buckingham Palace, William stood before a mirror in his private office. He adjusted his tie one last time. Today, everything would change. Catherine appeared in the doorway. She was dressed in a simple navy blue dress. Her hair was pulled back neatly. She walked to William and straightened his collar, even though it was already perfect. Are you ready? She asked softly. William took her hand. As ready as I will ever be. Are you sure you want to be there? Yes, Catherine said firmly. I need to be there. We face this together. At exactly 2 o'clock, the grand stateroom at Buckingham Palace was filled with journalists. Cameras lined the back wall. Reporters sat in rows, notebooks ready. The tension in the room was electric. No one knew exactly what this announcement would be, but everyone knew it was important. William entered the room alone. The silence was immediate and complete. He walked to the podium with steady steps. He looked directly into the cameras and began to speak. Thank you all for coming, he said. His voice was clear and calm. I am here today to address a serious matter that affects my family and this institution. The journalists leaned forward, pens poised. 2 weeks ago, evidence was discovered that the Queen Consort had been systematically leaking private information about members of the royal family to various media outlets. This occurred over a period of approximately 2 years. A gasp went through the room. Cameras flashed, but William continued speaking. A thorough investigation was conducted. The evidence is conclusive. The Queen Consort has admitted to these actions. She accepted money from newspapers in exchange for private details about family members, particularly my wife, the Princess of Wales. William paused. He could see the shock on every face in the room. Several staff members were wrongly accused and lost their jobs because of these leaks. Their names have now been completely cleared. They have been offered their positions back with our sincere apologies. He took a breath and continued. I want to be clear about something. This was not a few mistakes. This was deliberate, calculated, and ongoing. My wife's privacy was violated. Her trust was betrayed. Innocent people suffered. A journalist raised her hand. William nodded. Will the Queen Consort face criminal charges? She asked. That decision rests with the appropriate legal authorities, William replied. The family will cooperate fully with any investigation, but she has been permanently removed from all royal duties, effective immediately. Another journalist spoke up. How does King Charles feel about this? William's expression softened slightly. My father is heartbroken, but he has made clear that his duty as king comes before his personal feelings. He supports full accountability. No one in this family is above the consequences of their actions. What about the Princess of Wales? How is she? William looked directly at the camera. My wife has shown incredible strength and grace throughout this ordeal. For 2 years, she endured press scrutiny based on leaked private information. She questioned herself and her judgment. Now she knows the truth, and she deserves vindication. The questions continued for 40 minutes. William answered each one honestly and directly. He did not make excuses. He did not minimize what had happened. He simply told the truth. When the press conference ended, William walked out of the room. Catherine was waiting in the private corridor beyond. She hugged him tightly. "You did perfectly," she whispered. Within hours, the news had spread across the world. Television broadcasts interrupted their regular programs. Newspapers rushed to update their front pages. Social media exploded with reactions. Some people were shocked. Some were angry. Many expressed sympathy for Catherine and the wrongly accused staff members. The overwhelming response was respect for William's honesty and courage. At her private residence outside London, Camilla watched the press conference on television. When it ended, she sat in silence. Her lawyer had warned her this was coming, but seeing it happen was different. The truth was now public. There was no hiding anymore. She released a written statement through her lawyer. In it, she admitted her wrongdoing. She apologized to Catherine, to the staff members she had harmed, and to the public. She expressed deep regret and accepted full responsibility. She resigned from all her remaining patronages. King Charles also released a statement. It was brief and dignified. He expressed disappointment in his wife's actions. He supported the accountability process. He praised William's leadership and sent his love to Catherine. The pain in those carefully chosen words was obvious to anyone who read them. The legal review continued. The Crown Prosecution Service examined the evidence. In the end, they decided not to pursue criminal charges. Camilla had cooperated fully with the investigation. She had admitted everything. She had already lost her position and reputation. Criminal prosecution seemed unnecessary, but there were civil consequences. Several wrongly accused staff members filed lawsuits. Camilla settled them all, paying significant compensation. Her title as Queen Consort was not legally removed, but she would never use it again in public life. She lived quietly, away from the palace, away from royal events. Charles visited her occasionally. Their relationship was damaged, perhaps permanently, but there was still love there, buried under the hurt and disappointment. Whether it could ever be repaired, no one knew. For Catherine, the weeks after the announcement were strange. Everywhere she went, people showed her overwhelming support. At her first public engagement, the crowd was enormous. People held signs saying, "We support Catherine and justice for the princess." Some people cried when they saw her. Catherine smiled and waved, but she did not want to be seen as a victim. She wanted to move forward. She threw herself into her charity work. She focused on her children. She began to trust again, slowly. James Mitchell, the guard who had discovered the evidence, was formally commended for his service. He received a promotion and a special award for integrity. Prince William personally thanked him at a private ceremony. James remained humble, saying he had only done his duty. 6 months later, Catherine and William sat in their garden at Kensington Palace. Their children were playing on the grass, laughing and chasing each other. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. Everything felt peaceful. "Do you ever think about it?" Catherine asked. "About what happened?" William nodded. "Sometimes, but less often now. What about you?" "I think I learned something important," Catherine said thoughtfully. "I learned that the truth really does matter, even when it is painful, even when it causes scandal. Truth is better than comfortable lies." William took her hand. "The monarchy changed because of this. We proved that we can hold ourselves accountable, that we are not above the rules. Do you think people will remember that?" Catherine asked. "I hope so," William replied. "But even if they do not, we will remember. And we will raise our children to understand that integrity matters more than reputation." Prince George ran up to them, out of breath and happy. "Can we have ice cream?" he asked. William laughed. "Yes, we can have ice cream." As they walked to the house, William looked back at the garden. The storm had passed. The truth had been told. The consequences had been faced. The family was healing. It had not been easy. There had been pain, betrayal, and difficult choices. But they had come through it with their integrity intact. They had chosen truth over comfort, accountability over cover-up, and justice over protecting the powerful. The monarchy would continue. It would be stronger for having faced this crisis honestly. And in a quiet garden, a family found peace again. The story was over, but the lessons would last forever. Truth, courage, and integrity had won, and that was the best ending anyone could hope for. The end.